We are at the Veterans Affairs Medical Center in West Palm Beach, and today's date is November what? 27th, 2012. And what is your birth date?
May 1581.
And what is your name?
Melanie Prosser.
Okay. Let's see. And the person that's doing the interview is?
Trish Coons from the Red Cross.
You want to pull right up here?
Yes, sir.
And take over.
All right.
Got it? Right there, so it's like right in your face.
Okay, so Melanie, what are you a veteran of? Which branch?
United States Marine Corps.
Marine Corps. Hoorah. And how long did you serve?
I served from 1999 to 2002.
Fabulous. And what rank did you acquire?
Lance Corporal.
Lance Corporal. And where were you serving?
Cherry Point, North Carolina, on the air wing.
All right.
Marine Corps air wing.
And so you were obviously enlisted. You enlisted into the Marine Corps.
Yes,
and where'd you live at the time when you joined?
At first I lived in the barracks right there on the Cherry Point, and then I moved out to the civilian in, I think it's Morehead City, North Carolina, and then I moved back to civilian, or to barracks housing after that.
But before that, you were living with your parents?
Before I went in the Marine Corps, yes.
Okay. And why did you join?
Well, I was approached by a recruiter that asked if I would join, and at first I wasn't interested. I didn't know what I wanted to do, and he really kind of talked me into doing it. My father was in the Marine Corps, and so I just decided, it was just something I felt that I had to do. There's really no explanation for it. In my heart, I felt that I needed to do it, so I changed my mind and I decided to join.
So it's because of your father that you joined specifically the Marine Corps?
The Marine Corps, yeah, well, I kind of have an ego thing where I had to be one of the best, and the Marine Corps is considered the best, so.
So do you recall your first days in service, say in boot camp?
Yes.
Describe that for us.
Well, we went down to Miami to be shipped out. It was actually my first airplane ride, so not only was I nervous about going to the Marine Corps, I was also nervous about getting on an airplane. They put us on a bus. We pull in to Parris Island, and immediately a drill instructor gets on and just starts screaming at us, and there was so much chaos because everybody was so frightened, and we stood up on the legendary feet on the sidewalk, and there was just really no time to think. It was instruction after instruction after instruction, and they just basically, it was insane. It was chaotic.
What'd you feel like?
Well, my first thought was, oh my gosh, what did I do? But, I really wasn't, it was sort of intimidating, but, my dad kind of was sort of like that anyway at home, so I wasn't too nervous after we finally got there and got all of our stuff from them. It was easy for me. I'm very athletic oriented, so the physical aspect wasn't as complicated.
Okay, well that's a good segue into my next question.
Yeah.
So about boot camp training and your experience there, how was it?
We didn't eat a whole lot, and when we did get to eat, it was very quick. We had like maybe 60 seconds to sit down and eat, and if we didn't finish everything, we didn't get to eat. They kind of pushed us through and pushed us back out. They timed everything, going to the restroom, eating, putting on our clothes. Everything was timed, or you'd have to do everything all over again.
Yeah.
So.
Do you remember your instructors?
I do. Well, most of them by name. There was a few that were, more in your face than the others, so you would remember easier, but yeah, they were pretty intense.
And so how'd you get through it?
I just pushed through. I'm very determined, and I tried to help the other recruits in my, that were in my station, and at first it was complicated with not sleeping and the whole schedule, but eventually get into a regimen because they're very organized and regiment oriented, and just became a way of life after a few weeks of being in there.
So you said you served from 99 to when?
2002.
2002. So you were in during the Gulf War?
No, that was when Iraqi Freedom first started. I was getting out right as they were going over on deployment.
And did you get to go?
No, unfortunately, I was injured and medically separated.
Okay.
I was devastated. I felt awful seeing my friends, my brothers and sisters going over without me. And it still bothers me. I still get goosebumps thinking about it, and I don't know if any of them made it. We're truck drivers. Truck explosions were the biggest thing in the beginning of the war, and I don't know. It still bothers me to this day.
So, and where exactly did you go while you were active duty?
Immediately when I got to Cherry Point, I went on my first deployment to CAX over in 29 Palms, California. It was desert training. It wasn't that bad. It was fun. They had a gym that they put out there for us. We slept in case vans on cots. The craziest thing was it got really, really cold at night, and then the daytime was really hot. So you had to kind of adjust to the temperature and the weather. Yeah. So that was fun. And then I went back to Cherry Point. I stayed at Cherry Point most of my enlistment.
So what was your job or your MOS?
I was motor transportation, truck driver.
So you never saw any combat?
No.
And so you don't know anything about any casualties within your unit?
No.
Tell me about a couple of your most memorable experiences.
My favorite was, actually I like the field training. I like, going to the range. I like being out there in the dirt and the mud, and if I could have been a grunt, I would have been. It's fun. I love driving truck, but all the training was a lot of fun, and we were all really close. In the Marine Corps, everybody's this tight-knit family, and we're all there for each other, and it's a great time.
Awesome. Any others that you know of? Other favorites?
Cherry Point doesn't have the most exciting things in the area. We just, going to the gym with all my brothers and sisters, hanging out with them after work. Like I said, we're all pretty close, so we'd be up, late hours, probably later than we should have been. Just hanging out and having a good time. Motor T school was great. I like going there.
And where was that located?
That was actually we went back to North Carolina for that. No, you know what? That was my field training after I got out of boot camp. That was up in the Virginia area.
Okay.
If I remember correctly, it was so long ago.
Yeah. So anytime during your stint with the Marines, were you awarded any medals or citations?
No.
Okay. And how did you made Lance Corporal, so when you got out of boot camp, what rank were you?
When I got out of boot camp, I was a private.
Okay, so you made rank while you were out and establishing. And you said you sustained an injury because you were medically discharged.
Right.
What was your injury?
Well, I had to guide heavy equipment into my truck, so I was up in the back of the truck, and there was a rather large piece of equipment that I was directing back into my truck, and I guess the driver heard the wrong command. We said stop it. I guess he heard drop it. And he couldn't see my hand signals, and it fell on top of me, and it hurt my back pretty bad. I was collapsing constantly. I tried to fight to stay in, but I was just too injured to stay. So that was the biggest thing.
Well, let's see, let's get into maybe just your life in general. Have you, or while you were in the military, did you stay in touch with your family?
I did. My family lives down here in Florida, and I was in North Carolina. I'd usually drive down when we had leave. Every time we had leave, I'd drive down for a couple of days. They came up to visit me a few times, so that was great. I mean, not as much as I'd like, but it was good. A lot of, people don't get to see their family that often. So.
How about food in the military? Starting with, say for instance, the 60-second food that you got at the boot camp. into your...
It wasn't that bad at boot camp. It really wasn't. But then again, you're eating so fast you don't have time to taste it. It's funny, if you actually they had an ice cream machine in there, and if somebody made the mistake of going over to it, they would sit there and let you eat it, and then you'd get in real big trouble after you were done. It was bad. But as far as at Cherry Point, the food wasn't too bad. Actually, some of the MREs were pretty good, the newer MREs. And when we got to go to the Air Force, they have great food. Great. We felt like we were being spoiled going over there.
And so even when you were out on little deployments and stuff like that, you had plenty of supplies, plenty of things, everything that you needed, your food, stuff like that. Did you ever receive care packages while you were out and about?
I told my parents not to send me care packages like in boot camp, because technically they take it from you, and if they send you something like food or whatever, it can cause problems for you. So I told my mom just to avoid it. As far as being on deployment, it really wasn't necessary, and I didn't really have an address out there because we were out in the desert. So, no, not really.
All right. So did you, while you were in boot camp or any time during your time in the Marines, did you feel any pressure or stress? How'd you react to it?
It came so naturally to me. I wasn't stressed, no, not really. Physically, I was strong. Mentally, I just did what I had to do. See, with the Marine Corps, it's tough, but it's one of those things where if you have to do it, you're gonna do it, and you're not even gonna think twice about it. You don't really have a choice in the matter. And one person falls behind, your whole platoon falls behind. Because everybody knows in the military, you never leave a man behind. So you just push through it and you do it. When you get out, sometimes it's a different story. It's like, wow, how did I do that? So just push through it. It was okay for me.
Did you happen to have any special good luck charms or any kind of superstition type of thing that you kept up with?
Superstition? No. I think my biggest thing that drives me is I don't like it when a man tells me I can't do something because I'm a woman. So when a man, and several men have said that, they say it, a lot of men say that all the time, so to do it, I don't take that, I don't fall in that line. I just tell them nope, and I do it. And
how about entertainment?
Entertainment?
Yeah. What'd y'all do? Like, you have your downtime when you're out in the middle of 29 stumps. What do you do?
Well, there's the gym, and because I wasn't old enough to go to the beer tent, which they had a beer tent, I was in the gym constantly. I loved to work out. Before I got injured, I worked out constantly, and that's basically where I stayed unless we were out visiting with each other. There was, for the people that were old enough to drink, they had the beer tent, and then there was actually a place where they had pool tables and TV, because some people wanted to watch the game. It was in February and the Super Bowl was coming on, so they had little TVs, but that was basically it.
Did y'all ever have any entertainers? USO come out, or
no? I think
any concerts?
Usually just do that for people that are overseas at the war. I don't think they don't really do that for regular deployments.
Sometimes the Air Force has like their band or something come out, or singing.
Didn't really see a lot of Air Force. It was mostly Marines. I know they were out there, but really, because I had to transport equipment out to the. But I didn't really see a whole lot of them. It was Army and Marine Corps mostly that I saw.
And so when you went on leave, where did you go, or what did you do, or did you even go anywhere when you were on leave? Did you come home?
Just drive home to my parents. When I didn't drive home, I would basically, just hang out with whoever stayed home, or, so my answers always go to the gym. I was always there. It's physical straining doing the PT, so you got to keep in shape.
So while you were in the service, where did you end up traveling to?
I went to Lejeune a lot, which really isn't far away. It's like an hour away from Cherry Point. And then CAX. I really wasn't in for very long. I only did like 3 years in the Marine Corps, unfortunately. So that doesn't leave me a lot of space to go to different places. So that's really all that I saw.
Do you recall any particularly humorous or unusual events?
I will tell you the first time that I felt really cared for, by my fellow Marines. I was at Motor T training school, and I'm standing down on the bottom floor of the barracks, outside of the male barracks, and I'm talking to some of my friends, and this guy from the Army was up on the second or third floor, and he was yelling down, things at me, obscenities or whatever. And one of my platoon members overheard it, and I heard him start yelling, and then all of a sudden you see through the hallways all these Marines in my platoon running down the hallways, and all you saw was the guy get yanked back inside of his room. And I don't know what happened after that, but it was funny, and it was really endearing to know that we really were a family and that we take care of each other. And
The camaraderie of the Marines.
exactly, so that was pretty funny. There, a couple of times we've had people in our platoon, I probably shouldn't even say it, but you'd catch them sleeping underneath the truck. And we'd pull them out, and it was fun. I mean, there was, it was fun. It wasn't, it's not, when you're not at war and you're just there, it's like all your friends are just there, and it's like a regular job, a little more strict,
Yeah.
but it's like a regular job, and we all love it.
So, did you ever pull any pranks or see anybody who did pull any pranks?
Yeah, one of our friends had a motorcycle that parked out, and he just loved this motorcycle. So one day while he was still sleeping, we went out in the parking lot, took the motorcycle and pushed it into the laundry room in the barracks. He was so nervous and scared and just went crazy. Where's my motorcycle? And someone's like, I seen a motorcycle in the laundry room. He goes in there, and he was just so angry. It was hilarious. He laughed about it later, but it was great.
In today's day and age, of course, everybody has cell phones and that sort of thing. And at that time, too, you had cell phones and stuff when you were out in 29 Palms or even Cherry Point. Did you manage to get a bunch of photographs while you were out there?
When I was out in the desert, I did. Not really on my phone, because we didn't have a phone out there. There's really no service anyway. Cameras. We brought disposable camera. So I got a lot of pictures of a lot of people, which I cherish because, like I said, I don't have in contact with any of them anymore. It's really all I have to hold on to.
But do you remember their names and that sort of thing?
I remember most of them, not all of them. There was a lot of people in my platoon, but I remember the ones that I was closest to.
Have you tried looking for them, like on Facebook or anything of this sort?
I've looked for them. Sometimes it's hard with the women, the changing their names. Not every one of them keeps their maiden name on there, and I haven't been able to find any of the males through Facebook, but I will continue to try.
Yeah. Let's see. What did you think of any of your officers or your fellow soldiers? Were there any very memorable ones? And
yeah, the guy that actually recruited me was a gunnery sergeant. He actually reminded me of my father. He had that very strict, aggressive personality when you first come in, but then, behind closed doors, he's silly and he's a fun guy to be around, and he's got your back. You were his. When you were in there before you went in, you were his, and no one was going to mess with you. And that's the great thing. Like, they all stand by each other. From the officers to the, enlisted to everybody just stands by each other. It's great.
did you happen to keep a personal diary?
If I did, it's probably tucked away with all my uniforms somewhere, which I think I remember writing down a lot of the events, but I'm not really good at writing down every day, so.
And so do you remember the day that your service ended?
Yes, it was very emotional, because it just, I just found out, like, out of nowhere. It wasn't really a warning. All of a sudden I get a call and they had made the decision, and I was very upset. and my platoon actually made a plaque for me, and they all told me the greatest thing that they told me, which really bothered me when I didn't go over with them. They said, Melanie, they said, I would serve with you any day, any day. I would stand there right there on the front line with you. I'd leave my life in your hands and without hesitation. And being a woman and a man saying this to me, or several men saying this to me, that was a big thing, because as a woman you have to prove yourself in the Marine Corps. And that told me that they looked at me as an equal. And that was the greatest thing I remember anybody saying to me. And which made me, upset even more, because I just wanted to, not that nobody wants to go to war, but you want to go over and be there for your people, and it still bothers me a lot.
Where were you when you got the news?
I just got into work, and I sat down at my desk, and I got the phone call, and I put my head in my hands and just sat there trying to, I couldn't believe it was happening. I did my best. I went to the meeting to try to stop it, from happening, and it just didn't work, and I was just devastated. I didn't want to say anything to anybody, but.
All right, so now you're out. You go home, right? You went back to Florida.
Right.
What'd you do in the days and weeks afterwards?
Well, see, it's hard getting out with jobs such as, that are in the Marine Corps. There are not as many jobs out in civilian life that you can just kind of cross over to. I couldn't be a truck driver because I got injured, and so they forbid me to be a truck driver because I'm getting, compensated for my injuries. So I had to look for a job just like everybody else did. You would think being in the military, that might make a difference. They might be more willing to bring you in. Not that I want special treatment, but that didn't help me whatsoever, it seems. And so basically I looked for a home, I looked for a job. They did give me money to, help me get started. And I just had to push through like everybody else did when I got out.
So did you go back to school?
I did. Probably about a year after I went out, I went back to school.
And that was with your GI Bill?
Yes, I used the GI Bill.
And so then you got a job concurrent to that school, that training, or?
Yeah, after I got out of college, I started to work in that, and I'm not working using that anymore. So my injuries have, they're not conducive to that particular job. So I decided to start applying here. In West Palm Beach, VA, and it took me a while, but I got it. I got it, and it's stable, and there's a lot of great people here.
So what are you doing here?
I'm a medical support assistant. Basically, I make appointments, I cancel appointments. I send, I'm like the connection between the patient and the doctor. I send messages to the doctors, requests, anything basically the patient needs administratively. And I request the refills for the medications. So there's a lot of things that I do with my job.
And so, have you joined any veterans organizations?
No, I
like
haven't.
The Marine Corps associations, or?
No, there's a few of them that I've heard about, but I don't know of any that are close to where I live. I don't live up here. I live in Port St. Lucie, so I don't know of any that are around there. I'm affiliated with a few of them just because I work here. I talk to some of the people that are involved with them, but other than that, no.
So your military experience, did it influence your thinking about, the war and military in general? Is there anything that you could possibly elaborate on?
Well, the first thing I'd say is it really makes you grow up fast. When I came home from the military, the friends that I left behind, they're all in the same place, talking about the same things, and it's really hard to fit back in with these friends because they don't know what you've experienced. So it's almost like you kind of have to move on from that. It's really hard leaving the Marine Corps. It's such a culture shock, and no matter how much they, help you get back into civilian life, debrief you. No matter how much they do that, it's so hard. I respect all my fellow Marines. I miss all of them. I wish I could be in contact with them. I wish I could go back in most times. It's a great experience. It's a hard experience, but it's a great experience at the same time.
So how did your service and experience affect your life? And I know that you kind of touched on that just now, but what else did you use that you learned in the military that you're now using out here in the civilian sector?
I think,
Is there anything else that you want to add to that? Anything that you did during the military, your experiences, anything like that that you might want to add? Stories? Something I didn't cover.
It was very basic. Really, with my job, I can drive any piece of heavy equipment you can put in front of me. I'm excellent with all the weapons, firing, putting them together, all that stuff. That was my favorite thing to do. I mean, like I said, Cherry Point was kind of a boring place to be, but we entertained each other through that type of thing. I will like to tell everybody that, I've noticed there's a lot of negativity towards the military from people that never were in it, that's never been there. They need to know how hard we work, how difficult it is to be away from family members, whether you're in war or you're just at your duty stations. They want to blame the military as a whole for everything that's going on, and that's just not reality. We work hard to protect all our loved ones and even people that we don't know, and I don't think that most people are aware of that, and I think that they need to be. Stop looking at us as a whole and look at us as individuals, and that really hurts me and bothers me that people can have these horrible judgments against us when we're over there, or my fellow Marine soldiers. They're all over there for everybody, not just themselves, and that's huge. And we wouldn't have all these wonderful luxuries like cell phones and computers and freedom of speech and all this other stuff without them. And, so if anything that I learned, there are still people out there that care. There are people such as these. They're miraculous people, and they deserve to be respected.
So have you done any, have you joined any volunteer services or anything that can assist more active duty or even veterans?
I've had a lot of fellow Marines that are out in my area. I've gone to different functions to help, not any specific one. And usually they're doing it for not necessarily towards military, but other charities and everything. I try to help where I can if I, find out about it. But like I said, where I live, there isn't a whole lot to do. I do. My kids like to donate certain things or make cards, for the veterans and everything that are here, and they write letters to them and everything, not one specific person, but to whoever gets them. And believe it or not, the schools in Port St. Lucie, they're very big on contacting the veterans overseas, sending letters to them. I get calls from them all the time because my kids tell them that I'm a veteran, so I kind of help them with that and how to write and address the letters and what they should put in there. So I dabble in a few things here and there.
So being a female in the Marine Corps, first of all, the Marines are the toughest. They tell us we can't do it, that sort of thing. Being a female, what was the negative part of your Marine experience?
I hear from a lot of guys after they get out of boot camp that they're actually more terrified of the women instructors than the men. And there's a lot of things going around that women don't do the same thing as the men do in the Marine Corps, which is definitely not true. We do everything pretty much the same, and I will tell you that sometimes they try to make it harder on us. Like, we're out in the freezing cold, and then men are wearing their cold weather gear out in the desert. We didn't get to wear anything. They made us stand out there in our, shorts, t-shirt with our weapon and for hours, and you know, it's just, we're exactly the same. It's sometimes we have to fight harder, and negativity is men are better, women can't fight. I was there to prove them wrong. I was there to prove them all wrong, and that's why I've earned the respect of all the men in the Marines. And there was only 2 women in my platoon, so it was complicated.
Wow.
You know, it was tough, but we proved them wrong.
Excellent. You have anything else? I guess that would be the conclusion, unless you can think of something else that you would like to add.
Not necessarily, except I just want to, you know, go back to the whole respect thing. People seem to honor the troops when disasters happen, but they don't realize that we're there 24/7, you know, 365 days. We're there. We're training, or we're fighting, or whatever, and it's not just during disasters. We are constantly working for everybody, and I just hope that people can be open-minded about that and think about that, and, you know, respect us all year round. You know, just know that we're out there fighting for them, for the stuff they like to do, Facebook, cell phones, computer, everything. That's all that I really want to put out there.
Awesome. That's it? Awesome. Thank you.